Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
We're going to begin with breaking news overnight and a crisis averted in the nation's capital. Last night, the Senate approved legislation to raise the debt ceiling and avoid a U.S. default. Now, it's based on a deal that President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy negotiated. The agreement has major implications for the funding of government services. Nicole Killion followed all of this from the beginning and joins us now from Capitol Hill. Nicole, they were all on the struggle bus for a hot second, but how soon do you think this could go to the president's desk now that it's apparently done and done?
Well, good morning, Gail. President Biden will address the nation tonight. He says he will sign this bill as soon as possible, calling it a big win for the economy and the American people.
On this vote, the yeas are 63, the nays are 36. The 60-vote threshold having been achieved, the bill is passed.
The U.S. Senate powered through a package to raise the nation's debt limit for 2 years and rein in federal spending.
We may be a little tired, but we did it. So we're very, very happy.
The bipartisan vote followed a day of high drama in the upper chamber as some senators sought changes to the House bill.
This budget request falls woefully short.
Several Senate Republicans secured new commitments to prevent automatic cuts in the bill from kicking in and a pledge for additional military aid to support the war in Ukraine and other global threats.
We need safety and security.
South Carolina's Lindsey Graham made the request, concerned the deal didn't raise defense spending enough.
I know in divided government is tough, but don't tell me that this is the best we could do.
Other senators tried and failed to strip out a provision to expedite energy projects, like a pipeline in Senator Joe Manchin's home state of West Virginia.
What do you say to your colleagues who think you got a special carve-out in this bill?
I think that basically we have to look at the need that we have for the energy in our country.
But what does a pipeline have to do with the debt limit?
Well, no, you just basically have to have legislation that's necessary to use the vehicle you have, and this is the vehicle that we have.
Let's beat it.
With the default deadline approaching in 3 days, a race to the finish.
The Biden-McCarthy deal is not conservative in any way, shape, or form.
This isn't the piece of legislation I would write, but at the same time, we can't risk defaulting on the full faith and credit of the United States.
Even though this bill has cleared Congress, the Treasury Department is already taking some extra steps to avoid default. Today, it is auctioning off about $15 billion in bills to raise cash. Vlad?
All right, Nicole, thank you very much.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Nice to see everybody here. Oh, well, last couple of days it's been a disaster of thunderstorms here. Last night we had a big storm and lost the power here for about an hour and a half. And so I was right in the middle of doing this video, and because the battery was low on the thing, I couldn't finish it, so I had to wait till the power came back on to charge it back up, because all my portable batteries were dead too. I haven't used them in a while because I don't really need them, but I had 2 of them there, and so now I'm charging them up in case, because it's still thundering out there right now, and we're getting some rain, pretty heavy, and scared the bejeepers here out of Smokey here. But that's the weather here, and it's like I said, getting lots of rain, and I think the lawnmower man He already did the yard, but I think he's going to have to cut it again because the grass is like way up there, you know. So, you know, the grass grows quick after it rains here. So anyway, today, from what I understand, Biden and McCarthy, Speaker McCarthy, had come to an agreement on the debt ceiling issue. Okay? Now, they say they don't have all the details yet on the agreement. They won't be out till Sunday, but there's already some early reports about what's in the deal, and it looks like neither side is happy with what they're going to get. The Democrats as well as the Republicans are both fuming at it. For one thing, the Republicans are mad that McCarthy even struck a deal with Biden in the first place because they didn't want him to come to any agreement with them. But because we were coming so close to the deadline, I don't think, you know, McCarthy was really going to push it because they figured that if they made an agreement, it would take time to get approval in the House. So, but it got it, and so now we'll have to wait and see what's in it. But I have a report here from Politico that kind of gives you a gloss, kind of, you know, rough draft here of what's in that agreement, okay, as far as they know. And I'll read this here to you. It says, here are the 6 must-know provisions of the new debt ceiling deal. The policy provisions of the agreement between President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy appeared to fall short of conservatives' demands. The debt ceiling deal that President Biden and House Speaker McCarthy struck late Saturday is a true meet-you-halfway compromise between the stark ultimatums the leaders have issued for months. A far cry from the clean, quote-unquote, increase Biden had sought for the nation's $31.4 trillion borrowing cap. The bipartisan agreement is also much less punchy than the sweeping package House Republicans passed last month, as they demanded drastic spending cuts, major changes to energy permitting rules, and an end to many of Biden's signature accomplishments, including student loan forgiveness and pieces of the Inflation Reduction Act. While the details are still fuzzy, with the text due to be released sometime on Sunday, the agreement is undoubtedly the most monumental debt limit compromise the two parties have struck in more than 10 years. If party leaders can whip enough support to clear the deal through both chambers in the coming days, it would largely freeze non-defense discretionary funding in the fiscal year that kicks off in October, revive the threat of across-the-board cuts, and impose the most substantive restrictions in decades on the country's leading anti-hunger program. Here are the 6 main pieces of the agreement according to people with direct knowledge of the deal. The first part, work requirements. The deal would tighten restrictions for the SNAP Food Assistance Program as well as emergency cash aid known as temporary assistance for needy families. New time limits would be phased in for people without children up to age 54 to receive food assistance through SNAP if they do not complete certain work requirements. Under the current law, those time limits only apply to people up to 49 years old. Those expanded limits will sunset in 2030. Democrats secured some exemptions for homeless people and veterans, but the move will still enrage a wide swath of congressional Democrats, especially key progressives, who pleaded with White House officials in recent days to reject any concessions for aid programs. Republicans also pushed to include new work requirements on Medicaid, but the White House made clear early on it would not negotiate any changes to that program. The other part, energy permitting. The deal also appears to offer no major advances in one policy issue where both Democrats and Republicans have hoped to find agreement, speeding up the process of issuing federal permits for energy projects. GOP lawmakers, joined by Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, had sought faster approvals for oil and gas pipelines and other fossil fuel projects. Meanwhile, many Democrats want to hasten the process for approving clean energy infrastructure, including the power lines that would be needed to ferry vast amounts of wind and solar power across the country to meet Biden's climate goals. In the end, the timeline for avoiding a default on the national debt appeared to be too tight to allow the parties to work out a grand bargain on permitting an issue some lawmakers still hope Congress can take up this year. Instead, the deal produced only minimal changes to the current permitting process, according to one person familiar with the provisions, who spoke on condition of anonymity late Saturday. The agreement includes adding, quote, process efficiencies, unquote, to the decades-old law governing federal environmental reviews of projects, and calls for designating just one lead federal agency to review a particular permit. But in a big win for Democrats, the deal keeps intact the hundreds of billions of clean energy funding in Democrats' trademark climate law, the Inflation Reduction Act that Republicans had sought to repeal, COVID aid clawbacks. The deal would take back billions of dollars in unspent COVID relief funds Congress had doled out since 2020, impacting a wide range of current and future health efforts. Democrats recently warned that the cuts would hit vulnerable populations particularly hard, including veterans and tribal members, and undercut efforts to prepare for future pandemics. Federal health officials are sounding the alarm about the impact the cuts are likely to have on state and local health departments' work on HIV and other STDs and new viral outbreaks such as Mpox. Democrats also highlighted the cuts would delay the replenishment of the strategic national stockpile, heighten the possibility, should a new pandemic emerge, of a repeat of the early days of COVID when masks, swabs, ventilators, medication, and other crucial supplies had to be rationed. But the White House claims the deal would protect critical funding to prepare for future pandemics and COVID surges. IRS cuts. A portion of the $80 billion in funding Democrats pushed through for the IRS last year would be clawed back. That pot of money is supposed to help the agency supercharge its ability to go after wealthy tax cheats, modernize its IT systems, and improve customer service. Republicans have been on a tear against the funding for months, saying it would primarily be used to go after average taxpayers, despite the Biden administration's vow not to increase usual audit rates for those making less than $400,000 a year. While the administration fought to wall off the money, the cut is expected to be relatively small compared with what the GOP had pushed for all year. House Republicans used their first vote after taking over the chamber this year, to call for rescinding more than $70 billion of the funding, while leaving some money intact for taxpayer service improvements. The debt limit agreement probably won't please either side, though Republican lawmakers have more reason to be disgruntled than Democrats, since the funding isn't being eliminated. Spending caps. For Republicans, the two-year budget accord is a far cry from $130 billion in spending cuts the party first sought for the coming fiscal year, and fails to limit spending for a decade as many in GOP lawmakers wanted. Instead, it would keep non-defense funding largely flat for the fiscal year that begins in October at about $637 billion. Defense funding would be capped at Biden's budget request at $886 billion, about a 3.5% increase. Veterans' medical care would also match the president's request at $121 billion in fiscal 2024. Non-defense spending would increase by 1% in 2025, followed by years of non-enforceable funding targets. Congress would have to pass all 12 of the annual funding bills by the end of January, or face a stopgap funding patch that cuts spending by 1% across the board. The deal is a much less favorable outcome for Democrats than the two-year budget deal cemented in 2019 by then-President Donald Trump and then Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and a victory for House Democrats at the time. Both sides agreed to provide a bigger funding boost for domestic programs than for the military. Student loans. Conservatives have been trying to use the debt ceiling to force the White House to retreat on Biden's plan to cancel up to $20,000 of student debt for tens of millions of Americans. The deal reached Saturday would leave that program unchanged, according to a person familiar with the negotiations. But the agreement does codify into law the Biden administration's plan to end the ongoing freeze on monthly student loan payments and interest at the end of the summer, according to a source familiar with negotiations. The Education Department had previously been preparing to restart payments after the start of September. GOP lawmakers have been pressing the administration to resume collecting student loan payments, blasting the roughly $5 billion cost each month of keeping nearly all federal student loans paused. The debt ceiling bill passed by Republicans last month would have permanently curtailed the Education Department's authority to freeze student payments. But the deal would not go that far, protecting the agency's ability to pause payments in the event of future emergencies, according to a person familiar with the negotiations, who also said the administration's plan to expand income-driven repayment would be protected. Even though the White House staved off any rollbacks of its student debt relief in the deal, the future of the program remains uncertain. The Supreme Court is preparing to decide in the coming weeks whether to allow Biden to move ahead with canceling the debt. Well, I can see, through this here, why Democrats would be really disappointed here, because it really sounds like all the things that Biden wanted to get done or said he would get done, it seems like he had to make cuts in all of that in order to pay back the debt that Donald Trump racked up, okay, which means the rich aren't going to have to bite the bullet so much, okay, and the other part is that the IRS is really, they're not giving them as much money as they wanted, or as much money as he wanted to give the IRS to do audits for people making over $400,000, which means there's really no serious intention of really going after the people that are making all kinds of money to make them pay their fair share. Because I think that if Biden is already willing to go and cut that back to make a deal on this, then, is he going to be willing to cut it some more later on? I mean, it just seems like he's not really holding to his guns here. But the fact is he's letting the right wing, who've been threatening for weeks now, we're going to default the country, if we don't get everything. He's letting them have all of this. And he's not saying, well, look, you guys are the ones that's held up the works for all this time. We could have passed this goddamn debt ceiling thing weeks and weeks ago, but you guys have been stonewalling and making a political theater out of this whole thing, just because we're close to another election that's coming up, and you guys want to score political points by making me look bad. I would say, look, you guys are going to have to be the one to bite the bullet on this, okay? I have this thing set out where I was going to get the debt ceiling raised, and you guys didn't want it to happen. So you should take more of the loss than we are. You shouldn't get some of the things you want. And Republicans are mad that McCarthy even made a deal at all of any kind with Biden. Okay, they wanted it, the people on that side of the aisle wanted everything their way, all of it, okay? And so they were being unreasonable. They're still being unreasonable. And McCarthy is going to look weaker now, which is, that was inevitable. I mean, you can't make an ultimatum like they were making and expect that you're going to survive politically after that, okay? That was never going to happen. But the fact that Biden cost us so much in the deal, I don't know if finalized or whatever, in the deal that, again, the poor people, some of them are going to have to take a bite out of their benefits. That's still going to happen. The veterans are still going to lose some things. Homeless people, some of the aid that's out there, they're not going to get as much of. I mean, these are all things Republicans just wanted to cut altogether. Instead, Biden's letting them cut some. Okay? And all the while, he's been on TV saying he wasn't going to let them touch anything. So, the Democrats lost, the Republicans lost, and it's like having sort of a war with the Nazi Germany, and at the end, the United States says, well, you can have all the European territories you conquered, but you can't have any of our territories. Okay? So, I mean, you, depending on how you want to look at it, it could be a victory or it could be a loss. You know, I mean, I don't know. It's just that the one thing they didn't cut is defense spending. It's still going to go up. Okay? It's still going to go up. And I'm thinking maybe that's got something to do with rising tensions over in China, you know, and we are sending Navy over there to help Australia, kind of merging our navies together over there to kind of beef up a presence. Maybe that's got something to do with it, you know, I don't know. I mean, I guess, you know, the United States wants to build more ships, so that's going to cost money. But, you know, the thing about the military is it always finds the money it needs in order to be able to take care of things, whether it's a war or it's not. Okay, even in peacetime, they want more money. So I don't know what the hell reason it is that we couldn't have just kept the expenditure to the military where it is, okay, for another fiscal year or whatever, and take some of that money and put it into the other things, okay? But like I said, the rich people who got trillions and trillions of dollars back under Trump, okay, they're not going to let that go. They're not going to put that money fucking back into the system to help pay for things that, you know, the country needs, you know, aid for COVID and all this other nice stuff that people need but barely get. I mean, now they want people to work till at the age of 54 to get their SNAP benefits. Like, well, why was that even an issue? The unemployment rate in this country is low. Okay? I don't think we need to have a work requirement now. I mean, it'd be one thing if there was like a 10% unemployment rate, but it's not even there. It's not even close to that. It's like, what, 3 or 4%? It's the lowest it's been in decades. Okay? People are working 2, sometimes 3 jobs out there, you know, because a lot of jobs are just part-time. But there's no unemployment problem in this country to make them say, well, we need to make them work for their unemployment. No. There's always been enough money in there for that, especially now since, you know, there's not as many people reaching for it. The problem is giving the incentive to businesses to hire more, because there's still places that are understaffed and they're not hiring any more people. What sense does that make? So that means there's something wrong there, isn't it? There's a problem there why businesses can't hire more people, because otherwise, you know, wherever you go, you wouldn't be standing in line for an hour to get something, okay? So businesses aren't really hiring, and yet they're screaming they don't have enough people, and yet unemployment rate is down. So where's the bridge here that gaps the two? What the hell's the problem here? You know, I don't know, but it seems like that problem is not really being addressed properly here. And instead, they want to just attack people for being unemployed. Okay? And Biden went along with that. You know, I'm sorry, but I just don't understand that as a solution. It's not a solution. It's just kicking the can down the road here is what that is. So I feel like, you know, the Democrats really, you know, they had an issue. They had several issues, good ones, to kind of put money back in the system, and that's repealing the tax cuts that Donald Trump enacted while he was president. Okay, that would have saved a lot right there and paid back some of the money that he spent. Okay, but no, they weren't going to do that. I mean, you know, was it somebody had said, I think, was like, they ought to go all the way back to the Reagan years and start repealing the tax cuts from that point. You know, because from that point on, Republicans have been consistently chopping, you know, the rich people's responsibility to pay, okay? And they've always been trying to roll back taxes, and they jack up spending, Well, you can't pay for your spending if you're not going to allow money to come in from the taxpayers. I mean, Jesus, especially the rich ones. So, yeah, this is really kind of, it is disappointing. And it doesn't put Biden on a very good platform when he goes to run for president, because any Democratic opponent that runs, they're going to put this in his face. And it's going to hurt. Okay, it's going to hurt. And, you know, it's like, you know, the Biden has this really weird tact here of being popular, super popular, and then doing something that makes him, you know, unpopular. And then he does something super popular, and then he does something really unpopular. You know, he's a guy that doesn't stay on a consistent level. He's up and down like a fucking roller coaster, and that it bothers me. It annoys the shit out of me that he can't hold to his ground when he needs to. And yes, compromise is the art of politics. I understand that, but you know, maybe it's because Republicans kept stalling and not doing anything and giving Biden enough time to actually sit down and negotiate with this bastard to come up with a better deal. I don't know. But he never should have gave the Republicans that much of an advantage here, because they're the ones that played the game, you know, of, you know, seeing who can sweat it to the last second here. I mean, the way I look at it is the Republicans kind of got their way in a bit, and their tactic worked. And that's the last thing we wanted to. That was the last message we wanted to send Republicans: is, look, if you do this again, it could work even better next time around, depending on who's the president. But now we see that Biden is willing to take more steps than we would have let him, you know, than we would have ever let him do it. I mean, it just seems to me like, you know, if we were in on the conversation that was going on in there, I think a lot of people would have told Biden to step out. You know, we need to talk. You're giving them way too damn much, okay? For people that just wanted to see the country collapse, you're giving them way too much. You know, there can't be a middle ground when you're dealing with animals like that, because those people are not going to be happy no matter what you give them. And the proof is in the pudding. They're already bitching right now. They're ready to hang McCarthy from the highest tree, okay? They're mad as hell at him. Those people would have liked to have seen this country collapse, okay? But what them fucking dingbats don't realize is in less than 6 months from now, through the default, these people would be 10 times angrier than they are right now, because all those people that are Republican would all be out on this fucking street destitute. They wouldn't have any money to spend. They'd all be homeless. They'd be starving. You know what I'm saying? All the handicapped people would, you know, it would be misery all over the damn country. Okay, even the Democrats, you know, would want to see some fucking heads roll. And so, like I said, they traded their selfishness, okay, for common sense on the right wing. And why would you want to deal with people like that? Okay, the president had the right there to exercise the 14th Amendment right then and there. He could have said, fuck you and that shit, I'm just going to raise it, and you guys can fight this shit out in the courts. Okay, that's how I would have done it. I would have got everything I wanted, and let the Supreme Court try and buck the 14th Amendment, okay? Let them try and reinterpret that to make it sound like they know what's better, okay? That's how I would have dealt with it. All right, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be back.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
Holy fuck.
Were you just checking out her ass?
No, I wasn't.
You know what? Fuck this.
Wait, babe, calm down. Oh my god. Mary! I am sorry!
Dear Republicans, how can Joe Biden take your guns away?
He's going to take your guns away, you know that, right? Biden.
Didn't Barack Obama take them away in 2008 and 2012?
Obama wants your guns. How is that anything but fear-mongering?
It is actually quite accurate.
There have been more guns sold since I've been president than just about any time in U.S. history.
Oh, right. It was just another Republican lie. It never happened. Donald Trump and the Republicans have been using this fake threat for decades. And while we're clearing up BS, Joe Biden doesn't want to defund the police.
I'm the only one who's talked about increasing police budgets.
Joe Biden isn't soft on border security. Joe Biden won't raise your taxes unless you make over $400,000.
I'm really rich.
And remember all those Hillary Clinton she's dying stories from 2016?
She can't make it 15 feet to her car. Give me a break.
More BS.
I do have the unique experience of having shared a debate stage 3 times with Donald Trump, and I know that he will do or say anything.
She's fine.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
We are under attack. Look at the Los Angeles Dodgers, defaming the name of every Christian here on earth. It just burns a hole in my heart, angers me and embitters me. And it should you. We should feel that sting and fight against it. It just, I don't want to give these people a name. I don't want to give them that much credit. I want to cry.
And I just say that queer and trans people also carry the Holy Spirit. And that was really painful to hear. That was really hurtful. I live in Georgia with my wife now. You baptized me.
I did.
I know you're talking about the Sisters of Indulgence, and I understand that from the outside it looks like they are defaming Catholic faith, but they only do that. They only take... There are queer children here. The Spirit of God moves through all people. I will go.
God bless you.
man said. What did the man say? Smoke? Did you hear what I said? Ignore me. Just keep ignoring me. Cats. All right, everybody. I trust you saw the little video I put in here before we started the second half of the show. I gotta say, when I saw that this morning, I found it this morning, actually, when I got up. It was one of the first things that popped up on my list of news. I was like, you know, this is crazy. I'm living in fucking mirror universe here. But then again, I think, well, what haven't the priests done already to the Catholic Church? Okay, their reputation just seems to get less and less and less admirable, you know. And when I saw this priest here in Bay Village, Ohio, this happened on May 28th. So this was like, you know, last Sunday, I guess, right? And he shows up and he starts bitching about the Dodgers and all this shit, and then he makes remarks about the tax on the faith, and that, you know, no, it's time not to be silent, and you know what he's saying. It's just you know, he starts attacking LGBTQ and saying things about them that's not right, and you know, it's tearing the society apart, and yak, you know. And lo and behold, he's got a parishioner who's gay, who was in there in the audience. Now, there's a lot of these parishioners out there, they don't know this, okay? But there's a lot of gay people who go to church and they don't know that, okay? And they know enough to keep it to themselves, because if they ever said they were, you know, you'd start a fucking riot in the in the parish, you know. But yeah, they're out there. There's a lot, more than you know. But they were raised Catholic, and they're practicing their religion. And the priest shouldn't have a problem with that, because hey, that's more people. They've been bitching, oh, there are enough people going to church. Well, does that mean you're going to cut some more people out of your church by making stupid remarks like this guy did here? I mean, what the hell is the problem? I mean, what the hell did they ever do to you? They show up to Mass, they listen to your bullshit on the stage, you know, talking about things that you're twisting the truth from the Bible. You're misguiding your whole goddamn parish by saying shit like this. Why should that person ever go back and listen to you again, now that he knows where you're coming from? So, you know, he says, look, you know, you baptized me. He's been in that parish for a long time, and so was that priest. And he says, look, you baptized me. I carry the Holy Spirit within me. I know you're talking about the Sisters of Indulgence, and I understand that from the outside. You know, it looks like they are defaming the Catholic faith. But they only do that. They take their queer children here. Their Spirit of God moves through people, all of us. And then they got up on the altar, and they, you know, dragged him out of there, more or less. And he'll probably never be allowed back in there again. A place he used to be able to go to, you know, all his life, and now he's not going to be able to go back there again, probably. And if he does, he'll probably kick him out of there, or burn his ass, or shoot him, or some damn thing, because that's the world we live in now. Everybody's armed to the teeth. I bet there's people going to church carrying fucking guns. You know that, and I know it. But that's the way it is now. You can't even. You can't say anything that the right wing doesn't agree with. Okay, my father was able to get away with that back in the 80s, and he'd take a point with some of the priests and what they would say, you know, about, you know, vote for Ronald Reagan. He'd get right in their face about it, because he used to go over to the parish and fix their televisions and radios when they'd break down. He was one of the only guys in town that would do that kind of work. And he'd go right in there and tell Father Vachon and stuff, you guys need to cut that shit out, because you're splitting the damn church. You got Democrats against Republicans inside your own parish. So how's that going to play out? He'd tell them. Sometimes they'd listen and sometimes they wouldn't. But, he would tell them, But you can't do that anymore today. You can't go over to a priest and correct them. Okay? They're not going to let you because, hey, the priest talks. Everybody listens. It's no different today than it was years ago when the priests were quietly and secretly molesting young boys back in the parish. You know what I'm saying? Nobody would say anything about it. And if a kid ever accused the priest of doing it, that kid would get his ass slapped. Okay? So it's no different today. It's no different today, except now the parents are all in on it. So it's very unfortunate that we still have priests who still don't understand the Bible that they carry around every time they're in Mass on Sunday. Okay? They pick and choose, just like everybody else does, what they want to read and believe in. The rest of it doesn't exist in their mind. Or they never took the time to really understand what the meaning of some of these things are. Okay? Granted, the Bible is very confusing about certain things. There's things that the Bible talks about that happen and doesn't say that that's wrong or anything, like a guy being married to 50 different people, or what I'm saying? Okay, in the book, that God holds a person like that up in the pedestal. But in this country, we got a law against that sort of thing. Okay, and it's a law that makes sense. Okay, but nobody wants to really hear it. But the fact is that there are things, there's lessons, and you don't even have to go that far back in the Bible. Just if you have any inkling of a belief in Jesus Christ, okay, who died for us on the cross, whether you believe he was divine or not, doesn't really matter. Okay, the things that this man was telling people over 2,000 years ago were just as viable then as they are today. Nothing he said back then is old thinking. None of it. It's the age-old cry of humanity who wants to see the end of suffering as we beat each other to death, kill each other to death, okay, and create and destroy governments as we go. We're tired of it. And the inside, the voice inside of us would love to see it stop. How many people do you hear saying, oh God, the times are tough, and oh, I wish this war would end? Nobody wants these things to happen, and yet we constantly put ourselves in those things all the time because of our old flaws that we never dealt with since the time of Christ. And we always ignore the peacemakers, just like Gandhi. Okay, who the hell ever cares about what Gandhi said way back when? Okay, nobody does. Okay. I mean, we know who he is, we know what he did, but it's like, yeah, it's just history. It happened all that time ago. It wasn't that far ago, okay? But it's just history. It was just a man with a vision, okay? Now that he's gone, it doesn't mean nothing anymore, okay? That's the way the Catholic Church is now with the things that Jesus had spoke to us about, our ancestors rather. But he still talks to us through the things that we're allowed to see. Okay, that he said. We don't really know everything that he did. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more material out there that just never made it into the Bible, that things that Jesus did or said, okay, that we'd have a right as a Catholic to know, that the world has a right, not just Catholic, but the world has a right to know history. It has a right to know everything. I mean, if we're ever to learn anything, how the fuck can we learn if we don't know? Okay, so the fact is, like I said, there's things that he said that really matter. It really matters a lot, and they're not hateful things that he was trying to convey to us. Okay, about not judging other people for one thing. That doesn't get you anywhere. It just makes you miserable and unhappy, and people start to resent you and hate you for being a judgmental prick. Okay, they don't like that. So why do it? Leave the judgment up to the one person in the end that's going to have the final say anyway, and that's God Almighty. If you believe in God, then he's the one that's going to fix justice for you. No matter what a person does on earth, okay, we can lock them up for life, put them to death and all that, but at the end, it's still God that's going to have the final word on what happens to the guy, okay? Whether he's forgiven or whether he has to be punished in some fashion. Okay, so we really don't have the right. But the only thing we can do is take care of ourselves and make sure that we're good people. That anytime we interact with other people, we're good to them. Okay, and you know, if we look at each other as friends instead of as enemies or people we don't like, okay, you know, the bigotry angle, if we're always like that, then how the hell are we ever going to feel like this world is a good place? I mean, people always say, I hate this world, it sucks. Well, it ain't the world that sucks, people. It's the people that suck, that live in it. It's the people in this world that suck. The earth can get along just fine without us and be a great place for the animals that are still here, okay? But the minute you introduce humanity into the mix and we are bulldozing our way through the world like nothing, like there's no tomorrow, okay? And we're stepping on each other's necks and feet and everything else, and you know, if you get in my way, you're going to get shot. I mean, we're a very vicious, selfish people at the end of the day, and that makes it very unhappy for everybody else who has to live next door to us, okay? If we're like that. Now, you want the world to be a better place, then that means the change has to come from you. It has to start and end with you. If you can't change the way you live your life, how the hell are you ever going to expect anybody else to change theirs? Okay? You have to start the example that the others can follow. Jesus tried to do that. He got a lot of followers, I'll give you that. He did. He had a lot of followers at the end. But he tried to show people how you live your life, okay? Tried to tell them, this is the reason why I'm this way. You know, because I learned this, or, you know, whatever, my father taught me that. You know, he would tell these people that and say, look, does this make any sense to you? I mean, think about this for a minute. You know, where's this angst coming from? Why is these things happening? You know, trying to tell people how to live with each other, because we didn't really know. Or we weren't learning anyway. All we were doing was oppressing each other. You know, bow, kneel, yield. You know, that's basically all we were doing. You know, for thousands and thousands of years. You know, enslaving whole groups of people. You know, we were treating each other like shit. I mean, we still do. We still do. Even after the 30-something years that Jesus was around, we still haven't learned anything. You know, as much. I mean, yeah, we've learned a few things, you know, maybe made some laws in our country here kind of based on the Bible or some aspects of it. That doesn't mean we're a Christian nation. It just means we have some common sense. We know what we're not supposed to do, even though we're still doing it. But that, like, again, that goes back to who in the final end has the last word to be judged. And it's not us, it's God, okay? You know, if they're hurting other people, then yeah, we have to, you know, keep them out of society so they're not hurting other people. So yeah, you can... prison is a logical place for a person like that to be, okay? Or if you want to be more liberal about it, you put them in a place where they can get therapy, or if they can be corrected in some way, so that way they can function in society. But at the end of the day, the person that's going to finally judge that person ain't going to be us. It's going to be, you know, the man upstairs, if you believe in that, okay? Which, you know, I'm still in debate over, but I'm trying to talk here as a Catholic from the things that I was taught growing up, okay? Not trying to indoctrinate anybody out there, okay? So don't get me wrong, okay? I'm just telling you, you know, from the hypocrisy that humanity in the Catholic Church is doing. I mean, they're telling you one thing in church, and then they go around and do a whole different thing. They sit in there every Sunday, every Sunday for an hour. They go to church. They sit there. They listen to the priest read they read 3 parts out of the Bible, okay? And it's sort of repetitive throughout the whole year, the same things all the time. When you sit down at the seat, they have a book there in front of you, and you look at it, and they have that all planned out right up till the end of the year, and doesn't vary very much between year after year. But you read what's in there, okay, and then you cogitate on it, or you sing after you do it. Then you read something else. Okay, then you cogitate on that or sing after that. Then the priest goes up there and he reads something, you know, that maybe he picked out, that he wants, that's appropriate to what he's going to talk about. I wonder what the hell he read, this priest in Ohio, that gave him or made him think about bringing up this topic that he went up there to say. I mean, Dodgers and, you know, people that are queer and all, you know, where the hell in the Bible was that? You know, but yet everybody in there is sitting there listening, and they're clapping and applauding when he made his speech, and I'm thinking, you people are out of your fucking mind. This guy has twisted your head. And the thing of it is every one of you sons of bitches that are sitting there on Sunday who spend an hour listening to this priest is going to turn around, walk out the door, and forget everything that man just said, and you're just going to keep on doing the same old sinning, the same old bullshit, beating your wives, abusing your kids, drinking, raping, whatever the hell it is you're doing. You're going to go walk right out the fucking door and do it all over again for another 6-7 days. And you know, what makes you more of a Catholic than me? You know, it's not a wonder people are okay with the idea that the priests were molesting kids, right? Because, hey, a lot of your parishioners are doing the same fucking thing. Jesus, you know, and yet you go to church every Sunday and you sit there and you listen to this guy or whoever it is. I mean, in this case, I'm going to talk about this priest, okay, in Ohio. You go there every Sunday, you listen to this old bastard here telling you his idea about what's in the Bible. He's totally misguiding you. And you're going to sit there and agree with what he said without even remembering in mind about what Jesus was saying about not judging people. This guy was up there judging right and left. It's a wonder a bolt of lightning didn't come down and burn his ass right to the floor, because, you know, if there was ever a time for that to happen, it did. But instead, what happened, when he went and finished what he was saying, and he went and sat down on his chair, the guy got up from, you know, from the audience or whatever. He went up there and he had to rebuttal for that. And I give that guy, you know, he had a lot of courage to go up there, because that usually doesn't happen. I mean, you're really not allowed to be up there during the Mass at all, except for the people that are already up there. But he went up there and he had to say something about that. And what he was saying essentially was, I'm ashamed of you because I knew you my whole fucking life. And here you are dissing me in front of the whole congregation. Who are you? What are you? They wouldn't listen to that. And then the people were, get up there, you know what I'm saying? That's the result of a priest who's completely misguided his whole parish right there. They got him, no, he's got them thinking just like him. Okay? That place is tainted. That's not hallowed ground anymore. It's tainted. I wouldn't even touch the water, you know, the holy water when you walk in the door. I wouldn't even touch that. Okay? That guy, he committed a sin, okay? But you think anybody's going to write to the bishop and say, hey, look, you know what this guy just said here last Sunday? No. Why? Because the people agreed with him. They were clapping after he said it. Okay? They were clapping after he said all that crap. So do you think they're going to write to the bishop and say you need to straighten him out? Do you think they'll write to the Pope and ask him to straighten this guy out? No. And I'll tell you, it wouldn't be unheard of, because, hey, when people were going to their parents, say, oh, Father so-and-so raped me last night, what happened to those little kids that said that to their parents or tried to get help from them? Wow! They get a backhand. That's what they got. That's what those poor fellows got. They weren't allowed to say anything like that. They weren't allowed to get help from anybody. So the people learned to just shut their mouth and take it. And so people in my father's generation, had they waited all those years to come out and finally admit to somebody that these things were happening, and when they opened up that can of worms, there was a lot of worms in there. A lot of worms. So what does the church do in response to that? They tried to move these priests around, keep them moving so they couldn't find them anywhere, right? They knew that they were doing this, right? But instead of allowing them to face the music, to be tried for their crimes, okay, as they would tell any one of us if we had confessed to them about what we were doing, they would tell us the same thing. Go to the police and tell them what you did. That's the step to being forgiven. To confess what you did. You know, to renew your soul, you're going to have to face the music. That's what they would tell you. in the confessional. They wouldn't go and squeal on you for having said it, but they would tell you that in the confessional, that your step to forgiveness, to cleansing your soul of your sin, is to admit what you did and pay the penalty. Okay? And like it said, at the end, God himself will have to deal with you, one way or the other. Okay? And that's you know, you wouldn't be able to convince a priest of doing that today. No, they say, oh well, these people, they had issues, we had to deal with them on our own. Really, they're still out there preaching. What did you do that took about 6-7 months of their time and corrected them? Nothing. You didn't do a fucking thing. You just put them in a damn library, a religious library, for a year or 2 years to read some books, and then you deem them better again. Now you can go back out there and start preaching again. And what do? The first thing they do, they go out and they start molesting again. Where in the Bible did it say where Jesus said that was something that you could do and not have to answer for in any way? Okay? You can't, in a society where you live, where you know there's laws against that sort of thing, you know, it should be obvious. You can't do that. You can't, you know, but because they think, oh, I'm a priest, they can't touch me. The community loves me. That's power going straight to their head, people. They know that. And that's the problem, I think, with this priest here in Ohio, is he knows he can get up on his podium and say some pretty horrendous things and get away with it. Because A, he knows the people pretty well, because he's been there a long time, right? Remember the guy, they said that, you know, you baptized me, so you've been there for a number of years. He knows the community pretty well. He knows they're going to side with him when he says some shit like this, okay? Okay, and B, he's probably done this before and gotten away with it. You know, I can't see that this is the first time this man said anything like this, because the way he said it was so fluent and so, like, out in the open, like he didn't even look guilty when he was talking like that. So I know that he feels comfortable completely being racist in front of everybody at that parish. And I just know that, you know, this is out in the press, but is he going to suffer any consequences at all for that? I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. And that's really unfortunate, because, see, that shows how, what do they say, how the mighty have fallen. I mean, one of the biggest religions here on earth, and they're as corrupt as your government, essentially. Okay? People give money to them every Sunday. You know, whatever little they have, they give it to them. Okay? And they give food, and they have all kinds of things that they do for the church, you know, like food drives, and they, you know, and, you know, you name it. I mean, they do all kinds of stuff for the community and stuff. And then at the same time, they're out there doing these nasty things, you know, at least some of these priests are. I'm not going to say all the priests are bad. There were some good priests that I know. But the bad ones really stick out, because when they talk, it shocks everybody, because you'd never expect that to come out of the mouth of a priest. Not at all. Okay? Just as it shocked us when we found out how many priests were into this damn child molestation thing. Okay? And it seems like these days we can't really be surprised anymore about people we put up on a pedestal and say that's an example for us to follow. We're always let down. We're always let down when it comes to that. Every single time. And we never seem to fail getting let down. We always go right back to doing the same thing by putting people up on a pedestal, and then they bring us down, whether it's a celebrity or a priest or a policeman or you name it. Okay? It doesn't matter. Any one of these people, they let us down. So I think, you know, it says a lot about, you know, we're all basically equal. The only thing that separates each other is the job we do or the money we have. But we're the ones that put that barrier there, okay? It doesn't have to be there. Just because the guy next to you has a Mercedes, lives in a 3-story house and all that, doesn't make him any more or less than you, okay? That guy's got problems, okay? Maybe more than you're carrying. He probably doesn't have a whole lot of common sense about things, and you do. Okay, but he won't talk to you because you live in a shack next door to him and he doesn't want to see it, so he builds a fence up there. That's symbolic as well as literal. Okay, but these people, we're all on the same level. That's why Jesus was saying, you know, God looks at us as the same. We're all the same in his eyes. None of us, no one of us is any better than the other. And that's the way we got to look at ourselves. If we want to be godlike, okay, we got to stop looking at each other like, oh, I'm less than that one, or he's better than me. You know what I'm saying? Stop it, stop it, stop it. Jesus, you know, it doesn't friggin' matter. I mean, life goes by so goddamn fast, you don't have time to sit here and worry about who's better than you, okay? You just got to focus on what you got to do, you know, to survive on this world, let alone be envious or jealous of this guy across the road here that's got a big camper and all that. Fuck that, you know? Jesus, do for yourself. Forget what they're doing, okay? Jesus. And when you talk to the guy, you talk to him like you talk to anybody else. I mean, gee, why try to put on airs with people? You know, that's ridiculous. It's phony. So anyway, I wanted to talk about that because when like I said, when I saw that, I was like, geez, this is ridiculous. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, their weekend coming up and all that. And please subscribe and comment. And I hope everybody keeps your ears open to COVID. It's still out there. I know a lot of people are relaxing a lot, which is nice. Okay. But there are some people that are still wearing the masks, and very few, as a matter of fact, and that's good. You know, maybe they feel like they got a cold or something. You know, if I get a cold now, even if it's just a regular cold or flu, I'm going to wear a mask because I learned through the COVID thing that, you know, when we was wearing our masks, very few people got sick during the winter. Very few people got caught flu and all that. That was a big lesson right there to learn, is that, hey, it ain't so bad wearing a mask during the wintertime and keep down the spread of colds. Nobody likes to be laid out with a damn cold when they got to go to work, right? So don't be shy to wear a mask, and keep your hands clean and stuff, because that really does work. Save yourself money on medicine, you know. So anyway, treat each other nice out there. And I'll be back later with some more stuff. So take care, everybody.